Alright. Now we're good. So this is a short ZvP, but mostly I'm just riding the struggle bus against Protoss players that open Stargate and then go into something really cheesy like a Zealot drop. Because I'm kind of at a loss for how to scout for this if they're denying Overlords with the Phoenix.
I think I know exactly how to help you.
Well, that's what I was hoping.
Instead of a... Nope, it's Borkin. You're dead. Can't help you, Rip. Okay. Alright. So, I think explaining how this opening works from the Protoss side might be helpful to get a grasp of the logic.
Sure.
A lot of openings will involve the Stargate, mainly because the Protoss doesn't want to die to Zerg cheese.
Right.
So just opening with the Phoenix and an Oracle means that they're going to have an option for Ling Bane busts, Roach pushes, Roach Ravager, Ling all-ins, that kind of stuff. So you can't really read too much into it. A little bit of overactive drones there.
Yeah. Misclick.
This is a bad wall for Protoss. Baneling busting this isn't too bad of an idea. Yeah, it's bad. You don't put a pylon forward in the wall like this.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Usually it would be 2 gates and a cyber and then a unit with the pylon behind all of that powering it and then a shield battery next to it. That would be the most sturdy wall.
Right. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. It's good that you got the scout, though. You see the Stargate. Then you're kind of pathing back. The 36 Overlord will lose you games in ZvP especially, but really all matchups looks like you're not going to get blocked, which is good, or even making 2. But that's just something to look out for. And then on the Protoss side, the Twilight follow-up is going to be the most standard thing after the Phoenix. Super, super standard. And I think once you see the Stargate, and you see the Adepts, it can be a lot of different stuff, and the Phoenix is going to make that hard to discover. Like, say you run some Lings up to the wall, you won't really learn much, aside from this gas here. That's the only piece of information you can get. You can't get an Overlord in the main. So this becomes a sort of numbers game of how dangerous do you want to play. The range of workers you can make from this spot would be somewhere between 40 to 50. And that's going to depend on whether it's like a Zealot all-in that has maybe 30 or so probes, or if it's going to involve the gases at the natural. So in both cases, the safest option would be to go for layer next 100 gas, after Ling speed, refill gas, and take 1 more gas. The key unit set for this situation for all of the cases is 4 queens on a hotkey. I wish there was a way to kind of create indicators for yourself as a sort of tool, but it's really hard for people to tell what their most important set of units is in a given spot. Here, if you're against a Stargate opening with 2 bases, 4 queens is going to be the most impactful set of units you have that can totally snap the momentum what the Protoss is doing if you're devoting the appropriate attention to it.
Right.
So we've got supply block as a reminder. 40 Overlord. Okay, so 40 workers would be Roach Queen with Lair, Roach Speed, and this is for defending Zealot Prism all in. And then for the 50, you can go Lair Hydra Den, Mass Ling until Den is done, then make Hydras with a Hydra Speed upgrade.
Okay.
But in both cases, it's the 4 queens. 4 queens on a key is the magical piece here. 4 queens on a hotkey, just to give one example, is not super great if you're against Immortal Sentry all in. So
Right.
if you go to the front wall and you see, okay, there are like 4 sentries, and then maybe there's an Immortal sitting back there and they're pulling up a bunch of value, queens don't deal enough DPS to really stop that push. You want to go queen light and just have really tight injects and a fuckload of lings with some ravagers. That's a pretty high DPS army that can deal with that kind of push. But for basically every other opening, 4 queens on a hotkey is going to be the real solution to that kind of mid-game.
Okay.
It's not the one that often gets the big pushes in, but it's the one that allows you to control your territory really decisively.
So, how many queens total is that? Is that just 4 queens and you just pull the inject queens if you need them, or 4 queens plus 2 or 3 inject queens?
It can be the latter, I think, in most cases. Okay. Where you're making even more. This is going to be what? Oh, they're just walking the zealots. They don't even use a... Okay, there's a prism. That's
yeah, there is a prism, but...
Yeah, so did you... Let's look at your vision.
Yeah, this completely caught me by surprise.
Yeah, all you know is that it's 2 bases. If you get... Let's say... Let's go back a couple steps. You have your lair... Ling speed. Priority number 1 is bump the wall with lings. Oftentimes that'll give you information. Even when it doesn't, that's still worth it. You don't have to commit them, just kind of look at it. And then 2 would be check the third timing. If there's no third, you don't pass 50 drones. Period. Okay. Because right now you're making 12 drones, which is going to put you to 55, which is way too high for the zealot all-in. If you knew it was a zealot all-in, you could make roaches with all that larva, and you would be in a godly position.
Right.
Like, super godly position. Okay, so if no third, don't go above 50 drones. And then I'll say in parentheses, make overlords at 50 drones to make room for activities.
So how do I know when to stop making workers?
Mouse up in the top right. See your worker count.
Well, no. I mean, like, how do I know, like, when I should stop at 40 workers and when I should stop at 50, for example?
If you bump the wall, that'll usually let you see one of the gases. And if there's no gas, you should be on 40 workers. If there is a gas, you can go up to 50.
Okay.
At your level, I don't think they're going to fake it. Even at my level, it's not faked very often. And it still costs them, like, mostly a zealot to fake it. So the push will be a little bit weaker. So imagining this push, even if it did catch you kind of by surprise, if you had the 4 queens, your 4 queens should be...
That would have died.
Yeah, it should be at your center base, but they could focus this down pretty fast. As a reminder to you and chat, queens deal more damage, more DPS to air with more range than they do to ground. So if they have the option, they should always shoot the air target. Another thing that would help you some, I think, in general in your ZvP is filling your areas with creep. Lately, I've been using my first 2 queens to lay 2 tumors instead of injecting, and that gives me a whole load of creep all over the place early on. And it also causes me to bank up some more minerals, so I get out my next 2 queens really fast. So that 4 queen checkpoint happens super early, since I don't have injects with tons of larvae coming out.
That makes sense. Usually what I've been doing is my second queen, instead of injecting the second time, I've been dropping a creep tumor, but I'll try that and see how that works. Let's see, since we're doing ZvP, I had a really great game versus Hupsea the other night, but it's on the old patch, so we can't watch it. I'm super sad about that.
Ah.
Is that really the only ZvP I had? I thought I had more.
If you want, we can also look at one of mine. If you don't have any.
Maybe. There was one other that I kind of wanted to look at, though, and I can't remember what I did with it. Maybe that was the only one I had. We can go over one of yours if you think it'll be helpful.
Okay, give me a lead.
Isn't Hup M2 or M1? Oops. Misclick. Why do they put remove from party so close to promote to leader?
Oh.
Yeah, I think Hup is M2 or M1, but he said he was about 4850 when we played, Dylan. Which is definitely within the range of players that I'll get matched with. Okay. Ooh, I haven't played on this map yet.
Yeah. Well, you won't get to for another couple days. We just got a little taste of the new maps. I've even got, like, the Frosty Wind.
Oh, was this custom?
No, the ladder allowed us to play on these for a few games, and then they reverted it back.
Oh, gotcha.
So 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 pool.
Mm-hmm.
You know the build. I've been going 20 Overlord lately.
Mm-hmm.
Two queens, pull 2 off gas, ling speed.
Pretty standard.
Yep.
I'm not exactly sure what the probe is supposed to do there, just patrolling the wall.
They're trying to block the drone. If you send a drone before you send lings, they can just go with the drone and then prevent you from taking the base there, or at least delay it, until their adept gets there. So that's why they do that. And they'll only do that if you're going for a hatch first.
Most players my level just forget it's there and then it dies.
Yeah.
So it just seems like a huge waste to me.
Yeah. So adding some lings, whenever ling speed is almost done, gives you map control against the adepts and stuff. I think this game I went a little bit above, which I don't think is necessarily good or bad. It just changes what your preferred approach is going to be. Because we've talked about this in some of our sessions before, of creating a really decisive threat in the match, and how a lot of times we kind of play out a game and we're between all the threats, where we're never really that dangerous. We have a bunch of something, oftentimes it's drones, but putting something in the match that the Protoss is scared of and has to deal with is really good. So if you were to cut lings and only make, say, 4 to 6 to defend, then you're either going to be rushing out fast hydras or trying to get into like 40 to 50 drones of roaches or something like that, some other threat that's a little bit further down the chain. But with this, you can sit outside the base, I can kind of poke at the wall, I have a lot of control of the game.
Force them to stay home instead of be on your side of the map poking at drones and stuff with the adepts.
Yeah. Notice I have creep spread all in the areas of my main. Everything is creeped. And a big reason that's kind of a necessity these days is because of the Phoenix opening. You can't really rely on having your overlords on the corners of your map. If they go for Phoenix, you have to bring them in. So having more creep spread in the corners of your base means that's going to fill the vision there. So
all very sensible.
Yep. Droning up, have the spores. You can do 4-minute spores against the Phoenix first opening. Should still be good.
Solid defense.
Taking a gas, have the Roach Warren. It's around 4:45 to 4:30 when Protoss can try to take their third. I think of it kind of as like a wind-up. If the longer they delay their third base, the more powerful their push is going to be. So this is going to be what, 5 gateways in the main, 1 at the natural, so 6 gateways of prism aggression. It could be 7 sometimes, and the base is even later. But the point is, you need to stop making drones at around 50. So I have 52, and I'm making overlords right now. 3 overlords in Roach speed. So I know it's about to be go time. I'm making queens. So that'll put me up to 6. 6
Ooh,
queens.
nice catch there.
Yeah, notice how vulnerable that setup is. If you have the lings outside the robo, and you can track where the prism is going, you put them on the High Templar, and they can't morph to Archons, otherwise they would die. So this just delays their push, and it also makes what they're doing really clear and obvious to me. The queens focus the prism. Now I'm just making units. 3 queens at a time. So now it looks a lot easier than in a lot of games, just because the prism never really got to shine. It's like as soon as it went to my side of the map, it was really pressured, and they couldn't just leave it in the warping mode.
Right, they had to keep picking it up and moving it or it would die.
Yeah. So you can't necessarily rely on the queens killing the prism. It's more like they should really, really hassle the prism super hard whenever it's on your side of the map. And then another thing to be aware of too is the Muta option of being ahead. If they go for the single Phoenix and Oracle opening into the Archon and stuff, it's just way too much gas for them to add on more Stargates and go for Phoenix. They showed with the Prism attack that their 2 base play was the Archon Prism Zealot. Their 1 base play was some Adept Oracle with 1 Phoenix.
Right.
And this infrastructure is all to make a really big Charge Lot Archon Immortal army, which mutas are pretty good against. Just because they have the option to choose not to fight whenever they want to. You can really beat them up economically. And then also using roaches to just fill out your supply and also have a pretty strong ground presence. So here I'm just rounding up to like 70 or something. Got a bunch of roachling, got a bunch of mutas pulling up.
I feel like we're going to see a lot of copycats try to go mutas and ZvP because Cyril did it recently, and then fall flat on their face because they don't understand why Cyril went mutas.
Yeah, muta's a pretty situational opening. You can play it every game, I think up to like Masters and GM if you want to, but it ends up being a really base racy composition.
That used to be my preferred style in ZvP, but it is very fragile and very almost coin flippy, because you either succeed in the base race or you don't.
Well, I wouldn't say coin flip. It kind of depends on how much you start with before the base race starts, and how decisively you clean up their bases and deny their expansions and stuff.
Right.
It's really messy for sure. But in this case, we get to just kind of put units in all of the enemy's bases. And this is something that Hydras can't do in the same way. But you're kind of weighing, I have 3 to 4 bases of gas. What is a good unit to make? If you make Broodlords, oftentimes that leaves you open to some direct ground pressure when your Corruptors are out. And if you go Hydras, you can get stormed to death. Whereas Mutas give you a much more mobile option where it's easier to dodge storms. I feel like this Roachling Muta mid-game isn't really the point of this replay. It was more the queen presence and the hassling of the prism. That was the real kind of meat of it.
Yeah, that'll be really helpful.
Yeah. But this is just a Protoss time, so rip.
There is a game I kind of want to show you. It's a ZvP that I won, but I want your opinion on the build and the execution, because I think maybe it needs to be tuned up a bit. This is an idea that the Giant Gnome gave me recently. just to try and simplify the matchup by going for a 50 odd worker Roach Ling timing against the Protoss. It hits before Storm and really fucks their game plan up. Thanks for the raid, Addresseth, and the Zinner.
Well, this is going to be the best map for it, because I think this will be the shortest rush map in the new season. I kind of learned the hard way. For this map, the center path is totally cut off from the upper areas before you destroy the rocks. So a lot of times your units, if you're deciding to attack and then retreat, sometimes they'll run around in an unexpected way. You have to be pretty...
Yeah, I did notice that. But I'm... One of my areas of focus recently has just been whenever my units aren't doing anything, they should be chewing on rocks so that the map is as open as it can possibly be. I feel like when I don't do that, I just kind of get wrecked by random shit a lot more often, or get out of position.
See, this is a proper Protoss wall.
Yeah, that does look a lot more standard. I'll be honest, I didn't even notice how fucked up the other Protoss player's wall was.
Yeah, I think that's part of the difference between how a lot of the Korean ladder works versus how the NA and EU ladders work. For NA and EU, a lot of times people have a set plan for, I'm going to play a macro game and drone 3 bases. And on the Korean ladder, they'll look at a wall and be like, I'm busting you. Just kind of as a response to the first Overlord getting over there.
Right. Must kill.
There's a pylon in the wall. Ugh.
I have to kill it.
Okay, so you have 3 gases, going for the 4th gas, lair, 46 workers. Protoss has a 3rd base. Yeah, this is a very defensive and economical way for Protoss to play. The 3 gateway, 3rd base with the Oracle. So
I don't think the second Oracle ever really gets used.
Yeah, some Protoss players will just keep it at their 3rd to avoid getting pressured. I wouldn't say that it's bad, because if you're weighing the cost of the 2 units defending an entire base that's getting saturated and chrono boosted, it's pretty good for stabilizing and stuff.
I just never noticed they even had a second Oracle the whole game when I was playing it, so they must not have done much with it.
So you're ahead in workers, injecting your bases. Got the Roaches, Roach speed.
Slamming that Roach key. This caught me a little bit by surprise.
Yeah. I think having more queens would help get the creep sped up a little bit further on the top side. Having more forward link presence too would have let you know that they're gonna shade some adepts.
For sure. But all in all, the damage was not critical.
Yeah. It was a pretty late and half-assed timing. They didn't even have glaives.
No.
Send in the roaches. 20 roaches.
They're going double robo, so if this doesn't work, I'm pretty boned.
Yeah.
I kind of screwed up here too, because you're supposed to make a few ravagers to break force fields.
But they don't have force fields.
Right. So it kind of doesn't matter here.
Yeah. Now you control the area between the bases. So the key thing that I think a lot of players don't really think about too much is what their plan is during this attack. You're making units, which I think is fine. It's better to make something than to not make something. But once again, we're getting punished for not filling the creep spread in our main base. I think you can see it. No, you actually can't see it right now because you don't have the vision there. Cool. So that'll be a priority every single game. I challenge you to fill the creep in your main. Every single ZvP.
Got it.
Fill the creep in your main. Hold on, I have to bold it. Hold on, I have to make it red. Okay.
Fill the creep.
Every time the main base gets fully creeped, you can just feel victorious. But then you have to get back to the game.
Right.
But you're allowed to feel victorious for at least a few moments.
Right.
Because these queens can shut that down, like, super hard. The queens that you have.
If I just had them in position.
Yeah, well, you didn't have the information that that stuff was there either.
Right.
But if you had the creep in the main, you would. Dropping a Hydra Den when you move out wouldn't be too bad. Or a Baneling Nest. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the game plan. I move out with the attack, and while it's happening, I take a 4th base and I drop a Hydra Den.
Nice.
And then I go into, as soon as the Hydra Den's done, I drop a Lurker Den and go into Lurkers.
Cool. Well, I mean, I like that game plan overall, kind of because it causes you to want to make units at the time when you would be defending, if they were attacking you. And if they're being economical like this, it gives you an opportunity to deal damage and stuff, so that's good. I think if you just cross the T's and dot the I's and inject creep spread and get the creep in your main, then this will be a really strong way to play.
Okay. Awesome.
And you could go Hydra Bane or Lurkers, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I've been trying to practice more with Lurkers. And they seem to do really well on this map because there's only a few attack paths. It's pretty easy to move in between Lurkers because there's not that wide of a space in between, like your 3rd and your 4th bases there is on some other maps. So if they try to run around, and they have to run around quite a long ways, if they're pressuring, say, this 4th base, they have to go all the way around to pressure your 3rd.
What are you making, 10? Nice.
Yeah, 8 to 10 seems like a good number.
One thing that you can consider doing too, and this is like a theme of Cyril's play, is once you develop a new higher tech defensive unit, you use your lowest tech army unit and you steal it to its own harassment group. So you have 10 Lurkers now. You're strong and tough. You have AoE. You have an invisible unit when it's burrowed. And then you have a bunch of Hydras for support. These Roaches are actually just dead weight with this army. They're not going to influence the outcome of an engagement. So you could just take the 5 Roaches, go up to this base. I can't ping. Oh, I have your vision. Go up to this base area and then send them into their natural or something. It's going to be a really high percentage move. I usually steal them to my Mutakey. So I think of those existing units as, you're now dedicated harass, I have a strong enough army. Adding additional army almost kind of makes it worse for me with Storm. And the Roaches are so low DPS and they die instantly to Immortals anyway. That doesn't really help too much to have them with army.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all this opponent has is Immortals, so...
Yeah. So yeah, just something to consider. Yeah, GG. I like the game plan. I think it might be a bit worse the bigger the map gets. Just because you
definitely.
have ground rush distance to factor in.
There's one new map that's just ridiculously huge that I think it'll probably be bad on. And then I've got a couple ZvTs to look at. How are we doing on time?
We started 8:32. It's 9:06, so we're like 35 minutes in.
Okay. So This is kind of a gimmicky Terran. I play him all the time. He's super BM, but I usually beat him. So this was a rare time where I lost to this style.
The Grumpy Bears. Oh, it's a Protoss,
Made me very
though.
grumpy.
You said Terran?
Did I grab the wrong game? What the fuck?
It's a Protoss.
I might have grabbed the wrong game then. Let me look real quick. Classic Chestnuts. Well, it says Terran here. Will it say Terran in the lobby?
We can just try loading it and see what happens.
Yeah, this is the right replay. I don't know why it says Protoss there. Oh, shit, I didn't give you host.
That's fine.
They're random, so...
Yeah, that's not a Protoss. Look at this. Look at this decal. It's a Ford truck, like, going in the air. Astounding. Go 4X.
Alright. I should mention that this player knows what I look like, so every time we play, he makes some kind of dumb comment about my weight.
Save the Overlord, nice. Wait, what?
Yeah, that's not high ground.
It is. Can you pause?
Yeah, sorry.
It is high ground for a lot of these objects, kind of pedestals on the map. Oftentimes there's a high ground point and then low ground points on it. So if I had to guess, if you're directly over the blue crystal, you're good. If you're over the like green grass, you're not. The vines and stuff hanging off the side. Same thing for this like globe-shaped thing to the left of it. If you're over the very center at the top, it's high ground, but if you're just over the side, it's not.
Gotcha.
It's kind of testy about that. You can go ahead.
Okay, that's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Still want to keep going 4x?
You can go 2x now.
Okay.
Oh my god, this build is terrible. Okay.
This is why I'm salty that I lost to it.
So pause for a second. Did you see the CC?
I did.
You did. And you saw the factory tech lab. To me, this looks like a Terran who's very scared. And their opening is so defensive, it doesn't really have a good aggressive option. One of the important reasons why Terran normally takes their base at the low ground is so that as soon as they have their orbital and their 2 orbitals, they can mule it, which really spikes up their income, and that's partly what makes the Terran harass at 4 to 5 minutes so strong, is those mule drops that boost their mineral income. And if they build it on the high ground like this, they have to lift it up and fly it over, which costs them a bunch of time. So all of their harass is going to be late. If I see this, I'm going to drone super hard and get a quick carapace upgrade. Because if I have carapace lings with queens, they're not going to do shit with the marine tank pressure. And if it's mech, then the carapace applies to my roaches, and I can just transition into 1/1 roaches. But yeah, this is a very scared Terran opening, and this just tells me to drone without being supply blocked. Go, go.
All right.
In a bunker. Wow, so scared. And a Viking. Mass drones. I would just point the hatches all at the third and just drone.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a Bane Nest against this. You should rush Carapace.
Okay.
If the opponent plays scared, you play greedy. If the opponent plays aggressive, you play defensive. So this Baneling Nest, it's kind of on the late side for it being a Hellbat push or something, but you know it's not going to be Hellbats based on your scout.
Right.
And if it is, it will be so few that they're not going to do anything to you anyway. Another thing that's a kind of power spike aspect is dropping your macro hatch really fast. You can take it at 5 minutes to 5:30. You shouldn't really be afraid to do that. I would take it before the Hydra Den. And the reason is, if you're against Bio, the Hydra is a kind of icing on the cake unit. It's not the meat of what you're going for. What is this? Is it... Oh, they're going for the ghost meme?
No, they're going for, like, battle cruiser shit.
Wow.
Or at least that's how the game's going to end up.
Wow. So you've got your 4th. You got an Overseer Scout.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. You're breaking
See, now they're adding on the starports.
Yeah. Technically, they can't really stop Ultras. And like an Ultra Queen push, they would not be able to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
If they're playing defensive like this, I would definitely take Burrow. I like that you have Overlord speed, but Burrow would allow you to put a Ling here and a Ling here, and you'll know exactly what economy size they're working with.
Okay.
Vikings.
I was really baffled by the Mass Viking meme.
Yeah.
There's no reason I couldn't have been more aggressive out on the map either. I'm way ahead in supply.
Yeah, was it you or... Yeah, like this base at the bottom being totally uncontested, I think is a big missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the coaching session with you, or was it someone else when we were talking about like an ideal hive tech composition?
Might have been me. I can't remember for sure.
Ultra Corruptor. Ultra Corruptor. Like, what beats Ultra Corruptor? Battle Cruisers doesn't beat Ultra Corruptor. Mass Thors, maybe it kind of does. If they're attacking into a narrow choke or something, but then you can just make Broodlords. In this situation, you're massing Hydras, which I feel like isn't really leveraging your economy lead. Because if you have more bases and more gases, you can make the higher tech army at 200 supply than your opponent, but you're making Hydras like they're harassing you with Bio, or they're pushing you with low tier mech. But this is like the most defensive, sort of gas intensive max out that they can possibly do.
So I want to be doing the same.
Yeah, or trading really aggressively and then remaxing with higher tech units. So you've been ahead for a really long time, but it hasn't been represented. And they're eventually going to get to 200 supply, and when they do, it's going to be a super strong max out. This is kind of similar to how a Velo plays, if you think about it conceptually, where it's super passive, overly defensive, and their goal is to make the best composition that exists for their race. So your options are going to be try to delay and deny their bases as much as possible. You want to trade your low-tech units with their high-tech units while making your own higher-tech units. That's kind of the thought process here. But yeah, let's say versus defensive play. Burrow every time. One Ling Burrow each expo location. And then Ultra Corruptor versus Bio. You could go the same versus mech. And then be assertive with some speedlings and try to deny bases. It's pretty astounding. This is one of the things that I've gotten a little bit better at in ZvT. And that is just representing a little bit of Zergling at their bases. Because they'll just send an SCV over and try to take a command center. And it only takes one Zergling to deny that whole process. And sometimes they'll fly a base over and then run maybe 15 to 20 SCVs with no defense and no escort. And this happens at like mid to high GM. So that relationship of the speed Zergling with the new expansion is one that you should keep an eye out for. It's like hugely impactful for them. They're making these ridiculously expensive units and they have ridiculously good upgrades. And the big part of that is they just got to take these bases for free. They're just open and available. And now you're like, shit, how do I beat this army? That army would not have existed if it wasn't for those free 4th and 5th bases and whatnot.
Right.
Same thing as I mentioned in the ZvP game, where I was talking about pulling off the roaches from the Roach Hydra Lurker and harassing. With that big-ass Hydra Bane army, or Hydra Ling army, you had 12 Lings, which didn't impact your success in defending anything whatsoever, but they could have denied multiple bases if you spread them out, burrowed them, and then hassled whenever they're trying to take the new bases.
Okay, that makes sense. And we've got this one. I normally veto this map, so the only reason I even played this one was because new season screwed my vetoes up, but I kind of feel like I just threw this game away with really stupid decision making.
I think this is the best Hydra Bane map in the game.
Well, this is a mech player, so I think I stayed on Hydra Bane too long, and I made drones when I should have made units towards the end. Didn't have enough army.
So this map, fill the creep in the main. Look at the main. Imagine it filled with creep. Even if you veto it, this is an example of a map. Just put it right here. One tumor right there. It fills it up pretty nice. And then you can even creep it down later. So it's not like you're just wasting a tumor. It just starts in the main and fills that area.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. I don't even really hate this map. My win rate is just really bad on it for some reasons, so... In the interest of my mental health, I vetoed it.
Felipe Reuter, thank you. Okay, so it's a Hellion opening. I don't really like sending the second Overlord. I don't know if you do this all the time. But it doesn't end up doing that much for you. Because you can make most of the inferences with one Overlord and some Lings. I actually changed this after watching Cyril's games from DreamHack Austin. He doesn't do the Overlord speed opening. He just uses one Overlord. It's this Happy Buddy. And he's really assertive about dipping in and just checking this edge here. And you can see whether it's Hellion or Marine opening. If it's Marine, sometimes it dies, but at least you know it's 2-on-1 and that's fine. If it's Hellion, then you know. And then around 4:30 or so, you can just sack it and see what's going on, and then make a couple Overlords at home.
I feel like by doing that, I would have not scouted this armory, though. The armory or the Ghost Academy.
Yeah. Well, you only scouted with one of the Overlords. You could have done that same maneuver with the other one. Or you just
true. I see what you're saying.
This push is really funny. Let's talk about how this push works. The Ghost hard counters Queens. The Hellbats hard counter Lings. What do they use to kill the Hatch? Nothing they have in this push is good at killing the Hatch. So what I'm trying to say is, you've got some time. You're not in a hurry against this push. And they can't really reinforce that well with Ghost and Hellbat. So your mindset here is, the only dangerous unit is the Ghost. Everything else is kind of buffer. The Ghost can take out multiple Queens by itself, and they're trying to protect it. But oftentimes, you can reach for a snipe on the Ghost, like use your Lings, kill it, and then the push just looks stupid. It's just bad. It's Hellbats with a Reaper, and you have Mass Queen. They're not going to be able to kill you. And they can't really run away either. But you should really put a Creep Tumor in front of your third. I noticed that wasn't in, I think, your ZvP against the Adepts, and that caught you off guard.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the other point in red bold. Creep Tumor in front of your third. Okay. Okay, I feel better now. Okay, so let's watch this push develop and see if you can spot an opportunity. Like right there, you can snag the ghost. Just A move with your queens to kind of create some chaos. They'll have a lot of these little openings. It's not super necessary that you try to kill it, but that's really the soft part of this push.
Okay.
You probably could have surrounded the 2 Hellions and the ghost as well. This is easier to defend with roaches, but it's not necessary to defend it with roaches. Looks like you're probably going to defend this fine anyway. Ouch. Pull the queens, pull the queens. You're making more, which is nice. You killed the ghost. Good. Cool. Inject creep spread. Creep spread. Double Evo. We're going mech. And Baneling Nest. Kind of prefer a Roach Warren. Usually that push goes into bio, into mech. It doesn't always go into mech. But since they have the armory, I think mech is a little bit more logical.
I ended up being pretty indecisive just because I wasn't sure what I should do.
Roach Ravager max out.
Roach Ravager max out?
Roach Ravager max out. If you're against a committal push, basically of any kind that involves anything but Hellbat Banshee, Roach Ravager max out is going to be really good. The only time Roach Ravager max out is bad is when Terran gets super fast upgrades for their bio, and they just have a ton of Marine Marauder Medivac. They can micro, they can dodge your bios super easily, they're going to trade super well, and you're just kind of fighting a losing battle. But anytime they do some silly tech committal push like this, they're going to be really far from their 2-2 bio push. 2-2 bio tank, I feel like, is when you look at your Roach Ravager army and it's like, yep, this is not going to do anything. I'm basically dead.
Right.
But in other cases, it's super strong. You could play Mutas as well, but they have a factory tech lab, so they could make Thors. I feel like Roach Ravager max out with upgrades, and then going into Tunnel Claws is probably going to be your most solid response.
Okay. This is just not something I ever really see, so...
Yeah.
I don't really have a prepared response for it, I guess.
It happens pretty often at the Master GM level. I wouldn't say it's a main strategy, but it's definitely one that I'll face, like, maybe once every 10 to 12 games from Terran. So it's not out of the question. I think Terran players, if you're looking at all 3 of the races, Terran players tend to be the most build order focused, where they tend to have their kind of bag of memes. And when the tournaments happen, they tend to pick up builds from the recent tournaments and then work on them and stuff. But they're all sort of the trickle-down process of the best players did this build, so I'm practicing this build, and now I know how to do this build. And other Terrans are also doing it too.
Right.
So short version, this is in circulation. Roach Ravager max out.
Well, now I know for next time.
Yep. Burrow and Tunnel Claws is really strong too. I did get the chance to watch Cyril beat Innovation on Redshift, and he went for Roach Ravager with Burrow and Tunnel Claws against Bio, which oftentimes we think of as kind of bad, but he made a lot of stuff happen with his first 6 Lings, and then he made more stuff happen with his first 8 Roaches.
He just seems to have this miraculous ability to get things done with his units.
Yeah.
Did you see the game versus Maru and GSL versus the World?
I did not.
Oh my god, you have to see it. It was beautiful.
Oh, this is a very forward expansion.
Yes. That's where I kind of got the clue that they were planning on being very aggressive.
Yeah.
From here on out.
Okay, I want you to put on your thinking cap. Imagine 200 supply, hear me out. 200 supply, 1/1 upgraded Roach Speed Roach Ravager. This army is fucking dead, like super dead. Because you've got like 30 to 40 roaches in the front, 10 Ravagers in the back. You bile some of these tanks, you focus down the other tanks. This Heckbat Thor is nothing. Roach Ravager max out.
Yeah, I can see how that would have worked better.
This is a good push, though. I mean, them taking this base was kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good base for Terran. Oh, you did it! Champion level.
Now here, I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot, because I sniped a base, I'm denying another base, I'm clearly ahead on supply. There's no way I'm not ahead on supply at this point. And I've got 5 bases, so I feel like I should just win from this point so long as I don't fuck up.
You have 5 bases.
But then I fuck up.
Yeah, you have 5 bases. The question is, how are you going to remax? Because you traded out most of your stuff with that push, and a lot of their stuff died, but they have +2/+1 mech right now, which means they're going to be getting really powerful. I would feel like getting Vipers as fast as possible, or getting 12 Swarm Hosts. Those are your 2 options that I would say are the strongest. Which would you favor here?
Probably Vipers.
Okay.
I love my murder mushrooms, but lately I feel like I haven't been getting value out of them in a lot of games. This is where the game starts to go kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, the problem is you don't really have a super awesome unit. The Hydra Bane against mech is kind of like swarming them with bad units approach, rather than units that are really kind of surgically taking them apart. You're just massing a ton of shit and bashing it into them. Whereas the Viper makes that process more elegant because you get to choose what you're focus firing. You can abduct Thors, you can blind tanks, that kind of stuff. And having Roaches is pretty good too. The Banelings tend to fall off kind of hard when the Hellion count gets super high like this. When it's low, they can bust through the Hellbats pretty well, but you notice how they're kiting you and shaving off a whole bunch of your army. They can't do that quite as well against Roaches.
Right.
Sweet. Roach Ravager max out. Whether it was a Hellbat Cyclone committal timing, a Heckbat Ghost committal timing, Roach Ravager max out. And you can even do it with single Evo, where you go Carapace upgrade first, and then...
And then ranged.
Yeah, get ranged off of 1 Evo. It's quite
that makes
strong.
sense.
Nice. ZvP. Alright.
My ZvZ is still ridiculously good, so I feel like I'm pretty solid on that regard.
Nice. Well, we have like a couple minutes left. Let's see if I have a really short game to talk through.
Okay. Excuse me.
Oh, here, pass me lead.
Okay.
Okay. Super maximum turbo speed game flow of Zerg versus Mech.
Is Chestnut's aiming for that beautiful golden GM border in the future? It feels like a distant dream at this point. I've been pretty hard stuck in like the 4.6 to 4.8k range for months.
But all he has to do is get the creep spread in his main and a tumor in front of his third, and the universe will disclose itself to him. That's the golden goose that he's been searching for.
It's the secret to the universe.
Yep.
The key.
So watch this first Overlord behavior.
Okay.
I peek up and I click the building. I see it's a factory, and then I'm safe here. I'm on the crystal. Safe. 6 lings. I defend the Reaper. Oh, look at that creep tumor in the main.
Ooh.
Nice. But it's not all the way full. So I think I spread it again, yeah. Now it's basically full. Okay, there's an attack, whatever. We had queens and lings. Oh, I had banes. Because I saw marines and hellions. Which tells me Hellbat Marine push. And then the queens and the spore kill the Liberator. Now we're droning up. To what? Roach Ravager max out. I don't even know for sure that it's mech or bio. All I know is that for sure they committed a bunch of Hellions into me. Which makes the Roach Ravager max out better. 8 queens on a hotkey. Spreading creep. Look at how many creep tumors are out here in front of the third.
That's a shit ton of creep tumors.
It's more than one.
You're already up to 10 queens, too. Jeez.
Yeah. Why not? They're working. As long as you move around the queens. I know sometimes you get in the mode of like, queens are good, and you make a bunch and then they're just like 3 idle queens at this base, 2 idle queens at that base. Max energy. That's not as good.
Or you could go full agile style and just make like 30 queens and spam ultras.
Yeah.
And spam transfuse on them.
Yep. Roach Ravager Swarm Host. What other units have you made when you go for Swarm Host?
Usually either Roach Hydra or Lingbane Hydra.
Uh-huh. I was talking to DeMuslim on his stream, and he was saying that he thinks the Roach Ravager Swarm Host is stronger. Because the units synergize a little bit better in terms of their cost and also their upgrades. And the Corrosive Bile ends up being a similar sort of effect as the Baneling, where you get a little bit of splash. You can kind of run up with the Swarm Host and the Roach Ravager. And one of the key differences between Roach Ravager and Hydroling Bane is you can kind of attack and retreat at the same time. Whereas with Hydra Bane, you have to commit if you're gonna like try to present a threat to something. You have to trade it. Whereas you can just run away and drop a bunch of Corrosive Biles, which makes it a little bit safer.
That's like 24 Swarm Hosts.
Yeah. Isn't it fun?
That is insanity.
I only have 4 Ravagers. I wouldn't recommend this many. It kind of... I got punished for it a little bit later.
I usually only make 12. Seems like a good solid number to make.
Yeah, 12 is good. I think 16 is good too. Going over 16
I think if you make this many, you really only want to trigger like half of them at a time. Then it can make sense.
Yeah.
But still, I admire your ballsiness, I guess, in making that many not queens, Swarm Hosts.
Heck muffins.
Oh, sorry, heck muffins. I forgot. This is a Christian stream.
But yeah, I have the Hydra upgrades going behind this, and I kind of have a plan. As I lose stuff, the Hydra is the next unit that I'm going to make. Because it does reasonably well against basically everything. So yeah. Kind of dicey, but
yeah,
we can make Roach Hydra.
Is this Jason?
I don't know who this is, but they called me friend. It's a barcode.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
not in
Jason
GM.
usually says something meme-tastic when he barcodes against you.
Yeah. He usually says like a up a tree emote or something, so I don't think this was him.
Right.
Could have been, but I don't think so. But yeah, then the Roach Hydra goes and wins. But that's kind of the idea of having an absurd amount of like deep creep. Like, look at this. This is a little bit excessive. A little bit.
Yeah.
But the point is, you can think about the HP of the creep tumors and just building a big health buffer between yourself and the opponent. They actually have to shoot and kill these to make them go away.
Right.
And they have 50 hit points each, so if you have a bunch of queens... Have you been doing rapid fire creep spread?
Oh, yeah.
Queens? Nice. Keep doing that. Creep tumor in the main. Creep tumor at the third.
Alright. I will focus on that.
Alright. Good stuff, dude. Have a great
Always
stream.
pleasure.
Yep. I just sent you the notes. Go get him.
Excellent. Thanks, my dude.
For the swarm. Nice. What is rapid fire creep spread? There's a YouTube video for that. There's a YouTube video for that. What is the word of the day? Tough. The word of the day is tough. You're welcome. We have to press the button for it and hold down shift, and then you wave your cursor and you get a whole bunch of creep tumors and stuff. And the stuff. Cool session, yo. Cool session, yo. It isn't something to concern yourself with unless your masters are above, right? Yeah, I would say if you're... Well... I think diamond players can benefit from it. Before you get to diamond, it's more about having a fundamentally straightforward build order that allows you to have stuff in the mid game and be able to max out in reasonable time frames and stuff. With the games that we went over with Kessnuts, he's going to be playing against people who have practiced build orders that are doing kind of precision harass and multi-prong, where creep spread ends up being really helpful. But the bread and butter of getting to Diamond League in the first case is all about hitting that 200 supply mark as fast as you can. With a bunch of stuff. Roach Ravager max out. Roach Ravager max out. Okie dokie.